So, last week we wrote a rough draft of our informational reports. This week we're going to revise, edit, and publish. Today we are going to focus on revising and adding in transitions. It's important that we help our readers to follow our reports from beginning to end. Writers use transition words to help their readers understand the order of events in their piece. Transition words also help writers to change from one idea to another and to point out evidence. Follow along as I read the mentor text, Sloths, and see if you can hear any transition words or phrases. Sloths. What's very hairy, full of moss, and the slowest moving animal on the planet? Many people know the answer to this question because it isn't a surprise that sloths are tremendously slow. However, there may be a few facts that can be surprising about the sloth. Sloths can be a little strange in appearance. First, they have extremely hairy bodies to help with the excessive rainfall they live with in the rainforest. Their long hair helps the rain slide easily off their backs. Another interesting way their hair helps them is it grows algae and fungi. This algae serves a couple of purposes. The sloths can feed it to their babies, and it keeps them camouflaged in the canopy of the rainforest. Sloths also have long claws that curve at the tips. These claws help them climb the tall rainforest trees, hanging on tight as they hang upside down. Also, they can use them as a defense against predators. Again, they are pretty odd in appearance, but each feature serves a purpose. The tropical and cloud forests of Central America and South America is where these relaxed animals live. They've adapted to this habitat. Sloths have very long arms that allow them to climb high up in the canopy of the forest. Sloths do not exactly walk. In fact, they dig their front claws into the ground and drag their bodies across the rainforest floor if they have to. For this reason, they do not come down from the trees often. It can put them in a dangerous situation with a predator. The only time they do come down from the trees is to go to the bathroom. That's only about once a week. The sloth is mostly safe in the dense jungle it calls home due to its superb camouflage. Since the sloth is so slow, you might wonder what they eat. Sloths are omnivores, which means they eat plants and animals. Although it is rare for them to eat animals, they have been known to eat insects or an occasional rodent. Most of the time, the sloths will eat leaves, buds, or twigs. They do not receive much energy from their leafy diets, and this is why they seem so sluggish, sleeping 15 to 18 hours a day. The sloth's body temperature is low, and so is their metabolism, which keeps their food and water need low as well. As you can see, there's a lot more to a sloth than its slow and leisurely pace. So, did you notice some of the different transitions in this? I see a few, and I'm going to highlight them. We've got however, first, and a lot of times you'll find transitional words or phrases at the beginning of the sentences. And notice every single sentence is not going to start with a transition. Another interesting way, and specifically that word another, let's see, also, again, in fact, for this reason, since, we've got another, although, as you can see, and these aren't all of the transitions, but this is a lot of them. And these words help us move through the piece. First, and then we've got another, also, again, in fact, for this reason, since, although, as you can see. So those different words, they help us kind of see the order. We've got first, and then another also. And they also help us see different examples for this reason, and then they're explaining something about it, as you can see, and they're explaining something. So transitions can be used for a lot more than just first, next, then, last. We're going to look at a little chart now and go over some examples of some different transition words. So there are four main categories for transition words: sequencing, continuing an idea, evidence, and changing ideas. And we're going to go over some different examples for each category. Sequencing is what most people are most familiar with. These are our words like first, next, then. So see if you can come up with some different words that you know that you use when sequencing. So here are my examples of sequencing words. See if you came up with any of these. First, next, then, last, before, later, after that, finally, immediately, eventually. And these sequencing words are all words that tell us the order of events. They help us put things in the order that they are happening. We can also use transitions when we are showing evidence. What that means is if I tell you something and then I tell you why that thing exists. So one example from sloths where they're showing evidence is at the very bottom. As you can see, there's a lot more to a sloth than its slow and leisurely pace. They are using that transition. They showed evidence. They gave us a lot of evidence about the sloth, shared a lot of information, and then used that transition, as you can see. Other things that you might use to show evidence are phrases like, for example. And it's anything that you're going to say if you tell someone, I really like pizza. Some of the reasons why, and then that some of the reasons why would be your transition into your evidence. So see if you can come up with some transitions for showing evidence. So here's some different transitions for evidence. For example, for instance, such as an example, a reason, and you might have like a reason why or a reason it, depending on your sentence. You can also use transitions when continuing an idea. This means you've shared an idea and now you're sharing more about that same idea. So if we go back and look at that first paragraph, they were talking about their claws and that they use them to climb. And then they had the transition. Also, they can use them as defense. So they're continuing with that same idea. They're still talking about claws, and they're transitioning into another idea about their claws. So that would be one example of a transition for continuing an idea. See if you can brainstorm any more. So my examples are and, also, again, another, in addition. And remember, these aren't all of the possible transitions. These are just examples of some of them. And the last type of transition we're going to talk about is changing ideas. So if you're talking about one thing and you want to move into something else, you would use a transition to change your ideas, like the word although. They're talking about the idea that they're omnivores, they eat plants and animals, and then they're changing into the idea that they don't really eat a lot of animals. So they use that transition, although we're going from one thing to something different. So let's brainstorm some ideas of transitions for when we are changing ideas. So if you wrote down examples, hold on to it. We're going to grab our rough drafts, and this is going to be really useful as we revise our rough drafts to include more transitions. Take some time now to read through your rough draft. Where can you add transitions to help move your piece along and make it flow better for the reader? So I've got my rough draft and I'm going to read through it and look for places where I can add in these transitions. A few different transitions. I noticed in my first paragraph, I was talking about when her dad died, her brother took control. And then I had what happened next. She had to fight him. So I added a transition. After that, she had to fight him for control. In my second paragraph, I was listing different examples of things she did as queen. So I used in addition, just to continue that idea. And then my last example paragraph, I was trying to show time had passed, so trying to kind of sequence. William Shakespeare, when he wrote about her, it was a long time after she had been alive, so I added in hundreds of years later. And then many movies have been made about her life as well. And so here I put my transition at the end. And then her image is even still used. And then I used in my conclusion, as you can see, because I gave all these reasons why. So now you should be able to see that her life was very interesting. So see what you can do for your writing. Keep working on adding transitions and any other details you think your piece may need. Tomorrow, we are going to be perfecting our conclusions. See you then.